Finally getting his turn with the tune-up treatment, it is the endearingly known as the Berserker of the Stag Beetle family. It is the giant Stag Beetle type, KWG06 Tyrrellbeetle, REGRADED, with a kit of Desperate, double beam sword, biped legs, and the leg ability of Fortress, which grants a damage reduction when successfully defending against an incoming attack. Now, unfortunately, Tyrrellbeetle fell off pretty hard relatively early on from the competitive meta, and kind of has been out of the game for a while, even before he got a hold of the alternative mode, Tyrrellbeetle, which is the crafty mode version that transforms into Master Beetle. But as far as the OG is concerned, this is just as equally a very iconic model as is his counterpart of Arc D as well. When it comes to incredible power and synergy, this is a model that can take hits relatively well and dish him out just as powerfully once he's got a charge going. Desperate on the head part is a support skill that, when activated, will triple the amount of damage that he deals on his next incoming attack, but at the cost that he also eats 50% of the damage he deals as incoming recoil damage. This means that Tyrrellbeetle is primarily reckless when it comes to his role on the field, and this means that he doesn't really care too much about what happens to him, as long as it means that he can lay waste to any enemy in his way. Plus, if he ends up actually killing the enemy, if he ends up losing an arm along the way, I'd say that'd still be considered a win. But it is still a very risky move, as Desperate is capable of breaking things, so a word of caution is advised if you plan to use Tyrrellbeetle in that respect. Beam Sword on both arms are optic attribute melee skills that get a ×2 damage bonus at 30% charge and a ×3 bonus at 100% charge. This means that a fully charged Tyrrellbeetle can become an absolute menace to anyone on the opposing side very quickly, as long as he's allowed to finish his heating and get to the line. And that's not including once he gets Desperate on the field as well, to really step up his bonus, at the cost that he's going to completely throw away his sense of self-preservation for that next hit, and guarantee that if he's going to take damage, he's going to make sure that you feel even more than that. Biped legs means that he's going to have very solid coverage and very diverse terrain compatibility, and the leg ability of Fortress is actually really handy as well, as it does grant him a free damage reduction on top of what he's already getting, as long as he can successfully defend an incoming attack. Whether that means he tanks it with his head, his legs, or his arms, he gets a free 30% or even up to 32% when capped damage reduction on top of whatever he's getting to keep his damage as low as possible. And given he's already relatively bulky as it is, this really easily ties into his sheer bulk as a King Stag Beetle type, to really make sure he stays on the field as long as possible. When it comes to meta changing though, he will tuck in his body and exchange his melee kit out entirely for a shooting base kit of Laser, Break, Napalm, Wield Legs, and the leg ability of Adapter, which grants him an A rank across the board on all terrains not already at A rank or S rank. Now in this form, he exchanges his kit out entirely for long range like I said, and becomes much more user friendly as long as he's able to maintain that form. Laser on Drive A is an optic skill that gets a ×1.5 damage bonus at a 30% charge and a ×2 at 100%. Break is a gravity attribute skill that is exceptionally known for its skill in Heavy Punish, so if anyone's holding 2 or more heavy parts, they are definitely going to be feeling the pain. 1 or none, not as much. But with Break, you also get a success bonus relative to your charge gauge as well. So the higher your charge, the more likely you are to land hits and crits. And Napalm is a gunpowder skill that, when used, is a scattered gunpowder type skill. So it'll damage 1 part normally and then 2 others randomly for extra damage. And as a scatter skill, it will also consume 3 charges of any active guards that intersect the incoming blow. Wield Legs means that Tyrrellbeetle in Change Mode will have a much faster speed bonus compared to his regular form, and the leg ability of Adapter basically cancels all weaknesses that would come with being wield-legged. So that means that it doesn't matter how you choose to use him or where you choose to use him, he's going to have very consistent performance across all terrains as long as he can maintain that Change Mode in his wield form and keep the Adapter. Now, when it comes to his tune-up bonuses, we kind of got spoiled already with Tyrrellbeetle and the crafty mode, which basically got a whole lot of the bonuses that basically you didn't have to work for. But if you were unfortunate to not collect Tyrrellbeetle with that crafty mode and get the Master Beetle form, there is still hope, as the OG version of Tyrrellbeetle can still redeem a lot of those bonuses very easily and make very, very good use of them. For his head part of Desperate, he has access to plus 100 to heat and cold respectively. Desperate will have a reduction in recoil damage by 30% and an extra additional head charge. Now, compared to most other bonuses that you will see when it comes to tune-up bonuses, that recoil recoil reduction is amazing and a must-have for Tyrrellbeetle, because this means instead of eating a 50% recoil penalty when using Desperate on your next attack, you will now instead only be eating a 20% damage recoil, which means it's far less likely that Desperate is going to be breaking anything with the recoil, even on your most powerful attack. And if you build Tyrrellbeetle for incredible sheer bulk, that does kind of tie into it a whole lot easier once he's got a charge going. Any extra points, you can go for heat or cool or for the head use and not really go wrong either direction. His arms, both Beam Sword, have access to plus 100 to heat, plus 100 to success, plus 50 to cool, and a 20% charge requirement reduction. So this means instead of needing 30% and 100% to access that double and triple damage bonus, he only needs 10% and 80% instead. And unfortunately for Tyrrellbeetle, as powerful as he is not in any capacity self-sustaining when it comes to charge and metaphors. He does require at least a couple turns to either tank some hits or charge metaphors, or he's not going to be able to use Beam Sword to its capacity. But that changes with that reduction requirement, because now he only needs 10% to get that double damage, which means he can start really kicking with some damage and then start picking up some charge based on the type of metal nature you choose to give him. After those bonuses, you can go honestly any other direction for success or heat to kind of really push on his likelihood of hitting or getting to the line faster. I would honestly avoid the cool bonus because that really isn't all that noticeable at a plus 50 compared to the plus 100. His legs have access to plus 200 to shoot resist, plus 150 to evade, plus 150 to mobility. Fortress can get a 7.5 additional damage reduction and S rank on grassland terrain. Now, you could honestly go a number of different ways based on how you want to build Tyrrellbeetle. Ideally, you'd want to shoot for the mobility bonus, as this does mean that he'll have much faster overall speed, be able to use attacks or use his skill or transform a lot easier without getting possibly countered or crippled before he has the chance to do so. After that, you honestly could go either direction. That extra 7.5% that you'd be seeing on Fortress will be actually putting him up to a 40% damage reduction instead of a 32.5 that you'd be seeing when he's fully capped at 6-star. Or you could go for the shoot resist and kind of round him out just a little bit to kind of give him a little more bulk. Again, completely up to you. When it comes to his meta change type mode, that's where he really changes things up though, exchanging his melee kit out for a very well-rounded and very attribute-orient-rounded shooting-based kit. In this form, for Laser and Drive A, he has access to plus 200 to Success or Power, plus 100 to Heat and Cold respectively, or a 20% charge requirement reduction, which, much like it was with Beam Sword, is very, very important, as this means that instead of getting the 30% and 100% bonuses for times 2, for 1.5 and 2, he now only needs 10 and 80, which means you can use the damages a whole lot faster, build charge a whole lot sooner, and be able to lay waste a lot faster as well. After that, you really could go either way with Success, Power, or Heat Cool, because all of those bonuses are all honestly very equally noticeable. Or you could skip the requirement reduction and go for something else instead if you want to fine-tune Tyrrellbeetle for something a little more well-rounded. For Drive B of Break, he has access to plus 100 to Success and Power, plus 50 to Heat and Cool each, or a 20% charge requirement reduction as well. Now, for Success, this is different, as it means that the higher his charge, the higher likelihood of his hit is to be landing, and on top of that, also landing a critical hit on top of that. So while it may not be dealing anything necessarily as powerful, if you want to guarantee that the hit is painful, especially toward heavy targets, that is definitely a bonus to consider. Alternatively, you could also go for Success and Power as well to guarantee he already has the innate stat and not really have to go for a conditional Metaforce charge requirement instead. Drive C of Napalm has access to plus 200 to Success and Power, plus 100 to Heat and Cold respectively, and a damage plus of eating an additional charge count at +1. So instead of eating only 3 charges of a guard that is in play, Napalm will now eat 4. Now, much like it was with Beetle D getting that bonus on his basic Gatling, this is an exceptionally useful skill on Tyrrellbeetle as well, as this means that he can now eat 4 charges of any guard that intercepts him instead of 3, making it much easier to either brute force it or even reduce the charges on most other conventional ones, such as say melee guard or counter guard or something similar that doesn't necessarily come back as a punish to him. For his legs, he has access to plus 200 to melee or shooting resist to kind of round him out, plus 200 to his evade, or for his adapter will change his A rank from all terrains to S rank to all terrains. Now, that honestly goes without saying. Adapter already gives him A rank on all terrains, which is 10% to all of his leg stats not already at A rank or better. But if he's able to move that up to an S rank, that is 20%, which means you can use him in change mode anywhere and not have to worry about terrain whatsoever. You can use him as a laser nuker, a napalm shield shredder, or a heavy punisher with break, and really not have to worry too much on where he's fighting, because he's going to be fast, he's going to be bulky, and he's going to have an incredibly synergetic overall compatibility no matter what terrain he's used on. Now, taking his original pure set and mixed parts scores into account when I first graded him, I did originally have him at a 7 and an 8 out of 10 respectively, because a lot of the bonuses that he had, or a lot of the perks he had, much like it was with Beetle D, kind of canceled themselves out or got changed with quality of life buffs and nerfs, such as being able to hybrid metals with melee and shooting, with a lot of changes to how, say, laser or break or certain leg abilities work. He did get a lot of bonuses to kind of tie him back. But factoring those and his new tune-up bonuses into account, I do have to grade Tyrrellbeetle very confidently at an 8 out of 10 and an 8.5 out of 10, respectively. While you will be kind of missing a lot of bonuses when it comes to using them as mixed parts, you still won't necessarily be losing out too heavily, as you still have access to 2 very powerful beam swords, a slightly faster, very chunky biped leg with Fortress, and of course a ability that you can use of Desperate with far less of a recoil cost and penalty when using it. And as a pure set, he is a very synergetic model that when used correctly can be very powerful. But it is also worth noting that despite all these, he still does not fix his original weakness of not being very charge sustained and very charge efficient. So he will still require 1 or 2 turns to build a charge before he actually has anything to bring to the table. But once he does, this unstoppable berserker of a titan will most certainly lay waste to anything that stands in his way.